The film is actually based on the Rudyard Kipling story, The Man Who Would Be King. Is that correct? Yes. How familiar with the story was you before you jumped on board?
I'd seen the film with Michael Caine and Sean Connery years ago, but I was probably a little too young to kind of, get my head around it. I've been to that part of the world a few times, Borneo, looking for orangutans, at certain times in my life. So I knew that part of the world. So I was able to kind of quickly kind of piece those two things together. But, I did have to do obviously my own research to kind of educate myself on the character that I played. When you're in Sarawak, there's like 3 or 4 buildings that were built by James Brookes and his team. So the history is still lying around. So you can kind of educate yourself in real time, which is always helpful.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you also served as the executive producer on the film as well. How did that happen?
Well, when you get to a point where in your career where, I've produced things before, movies before and TV shows. So you have a certain skill set in terms of knowing what it means for a film crew to get to a tropical country and some of the things that, that takes. I was lucky enough to do and produce a nature show for 3 years. So, you know what happens when you have to travel to other parts of the world and some of the needs that the crew have. So I just kind of represented maybe some of the needs that the cast had. It sounds silly to say that, it's important to be in an air-conditioned room or, know what type of food you're eating or not overheat in the sun and all that kind of stuff. But I guess I was probably representing some of the voices of the concerns that actors might have over the year by being an exec producer. You just get to a point where, as an actor, you don't tend to have any semblance of a voice or control. And as you get older and older, maybe it's a little bit more important to have that voice heard,
Yeah, I get that. So does that, for you going forward, is that something now that you've had that taste of it, is that something you'd like to go into a bit more directing, producing maybe?
Yeah, you always want to explore it. Very often you find yourself in a project where they have enough producers or the project's so big and so established and you've come in at the last minute that they don't need you. They've already got 3 or 4 producers already doing that job. And they say, well, you just be an extra cog that we don't really need. It's more like a vanity thing than anything else. But if I'm involved in a project from day one and it comes to fruition, I'm always producing it because you learn that unless you ask for that right from the start, by the time the project actually starts, you won't be able to have an opinion or say anything or dictate anything about the show. So it is an important thing.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, filming actually took place in Sarawak as well, and it looked absolutely stunning on screen. But with the heat conditions, it looked a bit uncomfortable. How conducive was that to filming?
Well, it works really well for my character because, my guy doesn't like it. He's dressed in military regalia with a ridiculous beard and mustache and clothing, and he is sweaty and he is uncomfortable and he is getting bitten and stung by things. So I just allowed that to happen. I just kind of let it all hang out. As a person, like I said, I've been to that part of the world before a few times, so I'm used to the heat. I'm used to the animals. I like all those things, so I had to kind of lean into it a little bit, but all that stuff helps. I call those scenes no acting required. If you don't need to do anything apart from just show up, then you don't need to flex your acting muscle. You were already sweaty. You're already hot. You're already uncomfortable. You're already tired. And they call action, and then you do the scene. You don't have to act.
Yeah, and then, I was gonna mention. You had that full typical British costume in those times as well. It doesn't matter how hot it is, you've always got to be suited and booted, basically. I mean, was there a few hygiene problems on set?
Well, I mean, there's no doubt that I would think at the end of most days I was pretty stinky, because you are just sweating into like a shirt and a waistcoat and a blazer. I mean, it was a bit of a nightmare. We try and stay as hydrated as possible. And my skin looked amazing because you're just constantly sweating all your toxins out of your skin. all day. I think I lost a little bit of weight because you can't get enough calories into your body. I got quite sick one day for about 72 hours. I was just out for the count, sweating in my room, couldn't do anything. And when you've got like a bit of a head cold in, 38, 39 degree Celsius temperature, it is excruciating. But yeah, you're all kind of mucking in because the crew are the same. It's not as if any of the crew were smelling like Paco Rabanne. We're all a bit mucked in together. You have to embrace the jungle as much as you can.
Yeah. When was this actually filmed? Was it before the pandemic or during it?
It was just before the pandemic. So the last major flight that I took home was from Sarawak to Los Angeles. And since then, I've been in my house since then, just seeing out this crazy pandemic. So I think we wrapped end of November of 2019, something like that. Crazy to think, because I do remember being sat in a bar with a friend and we were talking about this virus news that had come out of China and thinking, well, I don't think we're going to work until probably the early part of next year now if this virus in China looks like it has legs. I thought, maybe by February or March of 2020, we'd all be back up and running. So you just don't know what's going to happen, right?
Yeah, I bet you can't wait to get back out there.
Yeah, I think we all feel that same, right, Sarah? Like it's.
Oh God, yeah.
We're so lucky nowadays that the world is a small place and we can travel around it with a lot of freedom, and we're also taken with different cultures and different food and different parts of the world, that when you have that shut off and you can only watch it on TV, you just kind of yearn for it. I yearn for different languages and different currency and different cuisines. Like I feel so romantic about those things now,
Yeah, I've even found myself actually yearning to go to somewhere else in the country.
Right. I bet. Just that.
Cool. I don't care. Anywhere, just I want to get out of London.
Right. I hear you.
So yeah, I mean, you were obviously Jonathan Rhys Meyers is in the lead as well, and he looked like someone who went pretty method. Was that the case?
Yeah, Johnny definitely kind of commits to the moment and to the scenes. He's a fantastic actor, Johnny, and I think in a lot of ways, when you're working with someone who's a great actor, you just let them do what they want to do, whatever their process is. If I was number one on the call sheet and I was playing James Brookes, then the people around me, the actors around me would have to kind of pick up on the pace of how I was doing things. But with it being Johnny, you just kind of say, okay, what can I do? What do you need? I literally played his assistant in the film, his bodyguard, his right-hand man, his assistant. And as an actor, I also played his second in command. So, you just kind of say, what do you need? How can I help? And he always showed up prepared. He always knew what he was doing. He was full of emotion and always on the edge of that emotion, always able to bring it. It was great working with him because you always knew that he was gonna give you 100%, and that puts you in a place knowing that you have to do the same. So I had a great time with Johnny. I've always liked his work. My parents come from an Irish background. He's obviously Irish, so we had a kinship in that way. And fingers crossed we get a chance to work with each other again.
Yeah. Did he actually, because he spoke the language as well, did he actually learn that?
Yeah, he's a brilliant imitator, Johnny. Really, really got a fantastic ear because he's also a musician. So he's got a great musical ear and kind of able to imitate people very easily, good at impressions. And he had said to the producers when he showed up, look, if this guy, James Brookes, learned the language, I at least in those first initial months and years of being there, want to be able to speak some of the language. So give me some of these lines in the local dialect instead of English. And he practiced and practiced and practiced, and he was absolutely brilliant at it. And I think even the producers and the director said, wow, his ability to pick up this language is extraordinary. So fair play to him. And I think it works really well in the film.
It does. It really does. So I don't want to actually give anything away, but how was it for you seeing a model head of yourself? Did it freak you out a little bit? It freaked me out.
I have it on my dining room table downstairs.
I was going to say, did you take anything away from set?
Yeah, well, you know, when we came towards the end of the film, I said to the art department, what are you going to do with that head? And they said, we'll just put it in a cupboard and eventually it'll get destroyed. And I said, well, can I have it? It's my head. They said, yeah, you can have it if you want it. So I took it through as hand luggage, which was brilliant going through customs, because they'd say, what's in the bag? I say, it's my head. And they go, what? And I'd pull it out and go, look, it's my head. And I put it next to them. So yeah, I wasn't on set that day, obviously, because my character wasn't around, but I had to do the cast, you know, where they pour the plaster of Paris over your head. And yeah, it did look kind of unnerving, but I think it drives so much of the narrative moving forward then for James Brooke, because he realizes, wow, if they're willing and able to kill my best friend and they have no qualms about it, then I really am in danger. I think for the longest time, he didn't consider that he was in danger, but he has to come to terms with the fact that, like, wow, they've killed the one other guy that they're not supposed to kill on the island, and they really are unashamed of it. So now I am in danger. So it was a cool, dramatic moment.
Yeah, it was. Finally, actually, considering you've starred in some iconic films, you know, especially with Lord of the Rings, blah, blah, blah. What are your thoughts in them now turning that into a TV show?
I think it'll be great. I mean, I've not seen it. People ask me all the time about the Amazon show and what do you think? And do you think it'll ruin the original trilogy? And have they asked you to be on the show? And I said, look, I'm the same as everyone else. I've not seen it. I don't know anything about it. I don't really want to know anything about it because I want to approach it as a fan. But I wish them a lot of luck. They're in New Zealand. They're giving a lot of money back to New Zealand, a country that I'm extremely fond of. And I hope it's a massive success. And I hope it continues to have people fall in love with those books, with that country, with those films, because it just extends the family. You know, I feel like I'm part of that family, and fingers crossed someone takes that baton and runs with it and does an amazing job.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Been great to talk to you too, Sarah, and hopefully you get a chance to leave London and go explore at some point.
Oh, I hope so.